Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and asked, "Am I still desirable?" Not just pretty, not just well put together, desirable. In that way, someone looks at you and makes you feel alive, interesting, magnetic. If that question has been hovering in your mind lately, you're not alone. A lot of women, especially after 45, start to notice a shift. Not always physical, though sometimes it is. It's something more subtle, more internal, like the world, and sometimes even we ourselves, starts treating us as if we're no longer part of the game of desire. Let's be honest, at what exact age does society stop seeing a woman as desirable? Because it feels like there's this invisible line, a sort of threshold where you go from being the attractive, mature woman to the invisible lady, and you don't even realize it until you're already there. Until you're walking down the street and people don't look at you the same. Until you go out one night and no one gives you a compliment. Until the desire you used to see reflected in someone else's eyes just disappears. But the oddest part is, many times it's not them who stop desiring you. It's you who starts believing you're no longer worth it, that you've lost that thing, that your body's become some kind of map with closed routes, construction zones, and do not enter signs, because that's what the culture has drilled into us, that youth equals eroticism. That firmness, freshness, flawless skin are your entry pass into the world of desire. And the worst part, we believed it. They planted it so deep that now, when we see our reflection, instead of seeing history, experience, sensuality, we see flaws, as if there's always something that needs fixing, the wrinkles, the sagging skin, the hair that's lost its shine. And that gets under your skin, because when society tells you over and over again that your worth lies in how you look, there comes a point where you start disconnecting from your own desire. Not the desire others might feel for you, yours, your own urges, your inner fire. And that's where the real question begins. Do you still want to desire yourself? Because desire isn't just about whether others fancy you, it's also a stance in life, a way of moving through the world with a certain spark, with mischief, with that quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're enough, curves and all, with scars, with stories you no longer tell, with a laugh that might be louder or softer than it used to be. Now, is it truly possible to feel desirable after 45 without falling into the trap of trying to squeeze into a mold that no longer fits us? Because that's the other side of the coin. Women who, just to feel seen, start forcing themselves to be someone they no longer are. And that hurts too, because fake desire doesn't hold up. It shows, and it breaks. Pretending to be comfortable in a body you're secretly rejecting just to get external validation is a form of betrayal. And here's something few ever say. Many of us were taught to desire only from the place of being desired, as if we're only allowed to feel pleasure if there's someone on the other end to justify it, as if desiring ourselves is too much, too indulgent, a bit odd. But it's not. Sweetheart, it's a right. It's a way of life. It's how you live in your body with love, with presence, with authenticity. Of course, getting that back isn't simple. It's not about just empowering ourselves overnight. There are wounds, disappointments, experiences that made us shut down, times we offered up our vulnerability and got indifference or judgment in return, and that leaves a mark. It makes us put our desire on pause, like it's something that no longer belongs to us, like that part of our identity expired at some point without us even realizing. But here's the deeply personal, deeply true bit desire after 45 changes shape. It's not so impulsive, not so immediate. Sometimes it sparks from a deep conversation, from a gaze that really sees you, from a connection that goes beyond the physical. And that doesn't make it any less powerful, quite the opposite. It makes it richer, deeper, more delicious. But to get there, you have to be brave enough to redefine what being desirable means to you. Not to the world, not to your partner, to you. And maybe this new kind of desire isn't as showy as it once was. It's not about low-cut tops, perfect makeup, or tight clothes. It's about an energy that radiates from within, a certain way you move, a certain way you speak to yourself in the mirror, the words you choose when you talk about your body, the freedom to move however you bloody like, to laugh out loud without checking the volume, to touch your own skin without guilt. Because that's where the secret lies. Real desire isn't seen, it's felt. What's most surprising is that often, when we start to rekindle that inner spark, there's a kind of discomfort around us, as if we no longer fit the image others have of us. As if a woman over 45 who desires, who feels, who explores her sensuality is somehow unsettling, inappropriate, or even, well, ridiculous. And that's when the silent pressure kicks in, the kind that doesn't scream but slips into gestures, into jokes disguised as humor, into judgmental looks. The kind that says, at your age you shouldn't, that's for young girls, who do you think you are? And of course it hurts. It hurts because it forces us into an unfair choice. Either we give up our desire and adapt to the respectable, mature woman stereotype, or we continue to desire and risk being criticized, mocked, or made invisible. And you know what? Neither of those options should be imposed on us, because true freedom lies in being able to choose, in being able to say, yes, I'm over 45, and yes, I still feel desire, and no, I don't need your approval to live it. That's where many women feel guilt. Guilt for wanting to feel attractive. Guilt for taking care of their bodies, not out of punishment, but out of pleasure. Guilt for wanting to feel desirable, even if they no longer fit into traditional beauty standards. And that guilt is one of the greatest enemies of our sensuality. Because if a woman doesn't allow herself to enjoy her body, her desire, her being, who will do it for her? Why is male desire still valid at 50, 60, or 70 while ours seems to have an expiry date? Does pleasure not age with us? Doesn't it evolve, deepen, become wiser? Of course it does, but we have to reconnect with it. And for that, we must first silence the voices telling us we can't. Those voices often come from outside, but many times they've already settled within us. Like a recording that plays every time we start to feel a little more alive, a little bolder, a little more ourselves. And here comes something that's rarely mentioned, the link between self-esteem and desire at this stage of life. Because feeling confident and feeling desirable are not the same. You can be comfortable with yourself, feel strong, independent, capable, and still not feel desirable. Not because you lack value, but because desire asks for something else. It asks you to lower your guard, to connect with your most vulnerable side, to allow others to truly see you. And that's not always easy. Especially if you've spent years caring for others, solving problems, holding everything together. Many women at this age are so trained to be functional that they've forgotten how to be sensual. And it's not their fault. It's just that desire needs time, space, play, and life often doesn't allow for any of that. But if you don't give yourself permission to play again, even just for a moment, desire starts to fade, like a candle burning out from lack of oxygen. And listen, I'm not just talking about sexuality, I'm talking about eroticism as a way of being in the world. Eroticism as life force. As that feeling of looking at the world with curiosity, with joy, with a little spark in your soul. Because when a woman reconnects with her desire, her intimate life doesn't just improve, her presence does. Her creativity, her voice, her way of walking, her way of owning her age with pride, without pretending to be who she was or needing to justify who she is. So yes, feeling desirable after 45 is possible. But it's not automatic. It doesn't come in a jar of cream or in a tight dress or from a string of compliments. It's a journey, an inward one that begins when you stop looking outward to validate your worth and start looking inward to discover what still glows, what still burns, what you still want to touch, to feel, to say. And yes, at times it will be uncomfortable, because you'll realize how far you drifted, how many parts of yourself you tucked away just to fit in. But you'll also discover how powerful you are when you stop asking for permission to feel, when you reclaim your body, your voice, your story, when you understand that desire never left, it was just waiting for you to come home. So if today you're asking yourself whether you're still desirable, don't look for the answer in someone else's eyes. Close your own. Touch your skin. Listen to your breath. Dance again. Laugh with your mouth wide open. Wear what you love, even if it's not what flatters you. Choose what lights you up, what makes you feel alive, because that is what's truly desirable. A woman who belongs to herself, who no longer needs to be seen to feel visible. You're not a woman trying to be young again. You're a woman choosing to stay alive. And that, my love, is irresistible.